Yeah, so we're in Unit 2, Keyboarding, Lesson 4. And in this lesson, we're not so much typing about how to type, but when to type, and specifically spaces and punctuation. So we're going to go through this lesson and talk about some important things. So spacing is really important, especially whenever you get to high school and college and you're typing up reports. Spacing is, you can get points off if you don't have the spacing correctly. Emails, memos, anytime you're being professional, you want to type professionally, right? So the rules of spacing are changing, and so we're going to go over some of the basics. So first we're going to go over spacing after a punctuation mark at the end of a sentence. So a punctuation mark, remember that's a period, question mark, exclamation point, those symbols. So if you're typing a sentence and you end it with a period, you should have one space, hit the space bar after you type that, and then you start your new sentence. Okay, so same with any punctuation. So I finish my sentence, end it with a question mark, I hit the space, and then I start my new sentence. If you don't, it's going to look like this and be very close together and hard to read and just not look very professional. So make sure you are always adding one space after the end of a sentence. So they give you a good example. So here's their example. Let me do this so you can actually see it. So today is Friday, period, space. Tomorrow we will go to the beach, period, space. One space. Okay, the next one. Using a period after an abbreviation. So some examples of that would be like Mr., Mrs., Doctor, any kind of title. You're going to use one space after that. Okay? So here's some good examples. There's only one space after Mr. and Miss. See, we've got that period, just like you would whenever you're typing a sentence. You put one space after it. If not, it's going to look very close together. All right, next, using period as a decimal point. If you use a period as a decimal point in a number, you should not put a space afterwards. The number should appear complete, like this example. Okay, so you don't want to put a space after that because that's going to confuse people reading your information. Okay, let's look at commas. Space once after a comma, unless you're using it in a number. You don't put any spaces if you're using numbers, okay? But if you are writing a sentence, after the comma, put a space, just like any punctuation. Semicolons. One space after a semicolon. So here's a good example. Typing should be an easily attainable skill, semicolon, space. However, see they put the comma, then space. Practice makes perfect. Period, space. Okay, colons. So this is another punctuation mark. So no spaces when you're telling time. You don't want to confuse it. No spaces when you're giving proportions, like 2:1. 2 or more spaces after certain words in memos, so like from, to, or date. So there should be no spaces before or after these items. So no spaces before or after the forward slash when using a fraction. No space between the number and percent sign. No space between the sign and a number in a document. No spaces before or after an em dash. So there are some exceptions. There can be spaces before, after, or no spaces at all, the following. So one space when used on an envelope between the number sign and the number. No space between the and symbol and initials. It's like B and O. No space before or after an apostrophe, because that's part of the word. No spaces before or after a hyphen, because that's making the word. All right, one space before, but no spaces after. So if you're opening a quotation mark, if you're opening a double quotation mark, you put a space before. Closing parentheses, brackets, any kind of brackets, you're going to have one space before, but none after. And then one space after, but not before. A closing single quotation mark, a closing double quotation mark, and closing parentheses. So when you're closing, you just have it after and not before. When you're opening, you have it before and not after. Okay, I know that's kind of confusing. That's a lot of information. You will be asked this on your quiz. You can